Let's help Mahyar Tousi with firstly some of the facts and a bit of his reasoning. He has this little YouTube short, and what's it called? 7 Reasons Why Nicola Sturgeon Must Resign. Everything that he says can be challenged, like every single thing. So let's start at the beginning.
Their case in the Supreme Court to have an illegal referendum.
So they obviously, Scotland wants another vote for independence, and it went in front of the court, and the court said no, Scotland does not have the right to have another referendum without the say-so of the Westminster government. Now, obviously, it really doesn't take a lot of brain power to understand that the UK is a union. If somebody wants out, they should just be able to leave. If the moment another country's government has to give them permission, it is not a union, it is a colony, right? The union was made up many moons ago, and it was created as a union. There should be nobody should be able to tell Scotland what if they can or can't choose to leave, or when and how, or anything. So this is such a bullshit, and it actually shows the situation of Scotland and Wales and Northern Ireland. This is not an equal partnership. Britain wants to own us for whatever reason, because according to them we're just a burden. So it doesn't make sense in any shape or form that they don't want Scotland to go, or even give them the right to choose. But literally this comment is so dumb because it shows that they don't understand the basics of democracy, right?
She's completely having a meltdown because her gender bill is now blocked by Westminster.
Another classic example. We have a devolved parliament, which is absolutely has the right to have jurisdiction over these items that this falls under. And then the UK government has blocked that. Now, to be fair, it is the first time ever that they blocked any one of these policies from the Scottish government. But the fact that they did is also telling. If you, it means they interfere in our politics, right? And what people forget, Mahyar Tousi, is that the Scottish government is made up by a majority of SNP. And not just the people that voted for this policy was not just the SNP, it was also some Conservatives and some Labour, and obviously Greens. That means the people that we as a Scottish nation elected in the majority to be in government made these policies, and another government from another country said no, we can't do it. You got to remember that if you want to be democratic, then this needs to be a negative, not a positive, for us, for your own reasoning, for your own kind of ideologies. If you're for democracy, then you should be against this sort of ruling.
She's had multiple scandals inside her party. They continue.
Right. Yes, I know. And part of the problem that I have is that I was a big supporter of the SNP. Firstly, because they are pro-independence and I want independence for Scotland. And secondly, because at least at the time, in the beginning, when they started rising and they became a majority, they were clean as a whistle. All the top guys were clean as a whistle. They were always on the right side of morality. And I have definitely noticed that they have fallen into the same trap as any other party over time. Power corrupts, and they slowly become just like everybody else. Saying that, there is still so much less corruption and criticism to be pointed towards the SNP in comparison to any other party that currently exists. So if you want to criticize corruption and this sort of thing in politics in the UK at this point in time, yeah, the SNP are not without criticism. But the impact to our daily lives, the real bad impact, comes from the current Conservatives. And if you want to spend your attention right now where it's most important, aim it at the Conservatives in Westminster and not the SNP. The SNP needs to be dealt with. Absolutely. I absolutely don't disagree with that. They need to be squeaky clean once again. Like I said, the only reason I would be voting for them is because they're pro-independence, but not anymore necessarily as my political party of choice.
To lose money every day, randomly. There's so much missing money. There is the ferry fiasco to deal with.
So I had a quick look, and this is missing money from money that they campaigned for, because they didn't want to use, obviously, taxpayers' money for independence campaigning. So they basically had, they were trying to collect money from, different places, and that money was supposed to go to the independence campaign. Apparently a lot of that is just missing, and they don't know where it is, and it's even with the police now. So this is going through the process. It's the police is investigating, so I'm quite interested to see what happens there. But I'm assuming that independence campaigning is a slightly costly exercise.
There are schools that are being closed under her government.
My God, there are schools being closed up and down the country, left, right, and everywhere.
And the NHS in Scotland is basically forcing refugees to go back to the...
Now listen to this language. The NHS is forcing refugees, plural, to go back to their country for medical assistance. The only thing I could find was one Ukrainian person who wanted to get blood tests, managed to get to the doctor, and the doctor said the blood test will take a certain amount of time, and because it was going to take so long, she decided it would be easier for her to just go back to Ukraine to do the blood test. So we're talking about one person here. So this is such an exaggeration, and I suppose this was the woman's own decision. More importantly, these NHS issues are not the best thing to bring up when you want to criticize Scotland, because the NHS in Scotland is still doing much better from waiting times, A&E waiting times, doctor waiting times, etc., than England. So this is not really the best example to try and make the SNP look bad when England is actually doing worse. On top of that, we are dependent on the petty cash that England gives us back to run everything that we do. We do not have fiscal kind of autonomy here. So we are, in Scotland, are entirely dependent on the budget of Westminster. So even though that we have control over the NHS, we don't have control over the money that we make and all the other fiscal policies that you need to put in place to be able to completely control your economy. We get a certain amount of money and then kind of left to do with it what we can. So again, completely idiotic, unfair, this at the SNP or the government in Scotland.
Countries and risk to be at risk and harm in Ukraine, for example, just to be able to see a doctor. So
the ferry fiasco, I've been following quite closely because it's actually happening in my town where the ferries are supposed to be fixed. Honestly, I don't know. I think the fault lies with the contractor from what I see, but the whole story is so, tit for tat, so, accusatory. It's hard to get to the bottom of it. What I do know is those ferries should have been built by now, end of story, and they should have been in budget. So I'm not so sure that's something that you can hang over the SNP's neck. In fact, the SNP were dangerously going above and beyond to try and help out this area by and saving a shipyard by bringing the ferry work to them. And I don't know if it was maybe completely overstretching their influence, because, you know, as we know, public money has to be scrutinized and where it's spent. But they tried to save a shipyard here, which obviously, if they didn't at the time, the shipyard would have closed and jobs would have been lost. So I think their heart was in the right place. I don't know if the execution was right. Anyway, thanks for watching.